Steins Reboot was formally unveiled at WePlay Expo 2025 in Shanghai, with new information about the project and also a new teaser, showcasing the very first D-mail sent in the story. Let's start off with what happened at WePlay. At the event, lead writer Naotaka Hayashi and series producer Tatsuya Matsubara were present to discuss the game and deliver a Q&A. They discussed a number of different points about Steins Reboot and had some fairly interesting things to say about it. From the information we've received, there's plenty of stuff that I perceive as both positive and also disappointing. Let's start off with the disappointing stuff first. First, Steins Reboot is going to use Steins Elite's text as a base for its scenario. As I'm sure you know, Steins Elite cuts roughly 35% of the original game script, making this a rather unfortunate decision. Many of Steins Elite's cuts were there to match the game's text with animation from the original Steins anime, which itself also made a lot of cuts to the original game story. But with them not having to work with animation as a constraint in Reboot, I was hopeful that they would be reusing the original game script instead. That way, there would be at least some value in Reboot, even if it were to be just a conventional remake. But no, they are going ahead with using Elite script as a base. So as compared with the original game, Reboot will have both new content, and yet it will also nonetheless cut content from the original game as well. As for why they chose to go with Elite script, I can only speculate. Maybe they seriously believed that the script they had for Elite was a definitive version of the scenario. Maybe they wanted to make the game shorter to make it friendlier for modern audiences' attention spans. Or maybe they just really needed to cut their costs down in order to maintain higher production values for the entirety of the game. Their financial circumstances are quite dire after all. Still though, if it were to mostly be in the realm of a conventional remake, using Elite script just feels like a massive unforced error. Like, hey, it's yet another remake with 2/3 the amount of content. It's one thing to make a conventional remake with the original version's text. It's another to make a remake based on an already existing subpar remake. In addition to using Elite script as a base, they also commented that the new content and narrative additions in Steins Reboot were something that they plan on keeping secret. But there will be one more ending. So based on the information provided, I get the impression that the majority of the game will be just like Steins Elite, and unless they make the new ending so substantive, it's looking like Reboot will cut a lot more content than it will add in. Obviously we can't know for sure until the game actually comes out, because maybe there'll be substantial changes midway through the story. But if I'm interpreting this right, that is quite disappointing to hear that there'll just be one additional ending. Does Reboot matching with Elite very closely necessitate that it's not partly a meta sequel like a lot of us were theorizing? No, but it does make it seem a lot less likely for it to be nearly as interesting as many of us were hoping. Especially if the other endings are supposed to mostly match up with what we've already seen in the previous 2 times that Steins had released. I will discuss more of that when I talk about the new trailer, because there are still some interesting tidbits on that point. But as for what they said at WePlay, what might this new ending be? Is it just a short 1-hour-long Moeka route with content from Height of the Dark Dimension? Is it Load Region of Deja Vu in VN form? Is it something completely new and off the rails? We'll just have to see, I suppose. With them having marketed the game so heavily on the basis of narrative additions and an all-new story, I would sure hope that this new stuff is significant. But for now, on to more positive stuff from WePlay Expo. First, the next SciADV entry is in development. Surprise, surprise, it's been over 3 years. I would sure hope that the next SciADV entry was in the works by now. Like in the old days, it did not take them nearly this long to make games. Like between 2009 and 2014, we had 4 mainline entries released, and in the 11 years since, we've had 2, with one of them being incomplete. Like, damn, this series has really slowed down to a crawl in releases. But seriously, the next SciADV entry being in the works isn't anything new. Matsubara also discussed it in interviews from the end of last year. And we've been hearing about the next SciADV entry from Shikura in his Twitcasting livestreams. Due to taking place in the future and focusing on the concept of technological singularity, it is facing a very anonymous code-like development hell. so I do not anticipate it will be releasing anytime soon unless they have multiple other SciADV projects actively in the pipeline. Speaking of which, they also affirmed that they would like to release other remakes for other games in the series as well, and that they would like to do so before releasing the next SciADV entry. As for whether they mean mainline games, or just the many different Steins Gate side entries, I do not know. Steins Gate does sell like hotcakes. Personally, I think there are two SciADV games that I would like to see remakes for: Steins Gate 0 and Occultic 9. Steins Gate 0 is a story that at the moment requires someone to go through both the 0 visual novel and the 0 anime to get the full story. I thought that Steins Gate 0 Elite could have been their opportunity to make one definitive version of Steins Gate 0, but if that would be too costly due to needing to freshly animate a huge amount of content, a Steins Gate 0 reboot could work instead, incorporating the anime route in addition to the existing routes from the original 0 visual novel. That way, there could be a definitive version of the story in a more cost-effective manner. Maybe they could even reincorporate aspects from the Cut Fubuki route. I think that would be interesting. As for Occultic 9, I say remake, but really, that story just needs to be finished off. Like, come on, it's been over 8 years at this point. Where the heck is Volume 4? Where is the so-called planned Occultic 9 Elite? If it's cheaper to make it and brand it as Occultic 9 Reboot instead of Occultic 9 Elite, that's fine. But just finish off the story in some form. Moving on from the information at WePlay Expo and into the brand new trailer, and we have some interesting things of note. This is the first time we're getting any gameplay footage of Steins Gate Reboot. As they had indicated at WePlay Expo, the text we see matches almost one-to-one with Steins Gate Elite. In the English version of the trailer, a notable difference is one line being cut short, though that seems to be a quality assurance oversight. However, in both the Japanese and English versions of the trailer, there is one line that is present in Elite, but not present in Reboot. In addition, as many of us had expected, they are using live 2D sprites in a manner similar to anonymous code. So this is looking like the game is in M2's Kaleido ADV engine as opposed to Mage's engine. Seeing everything in motion, I do like the general look of the game. Strong production values overall, cool sprites, detailed backgrounds, and neat visual effects like the motion blur when Okabe is out of breath. But I don't think this style suits Steins Gate nearly as well as it suited a very futuristic game like Anonymous Code. Like, something about it all still feels a little off. Maybe part of that is just the general emptiness of their surroundings. Like, even in the text presented, which itself, in the English version, is in a font I'm not even sure I like, Okabe discusses the actions of the crowd around him. But all you see behind is just an empty Akihabara, even though at this point in time, there's still supposed to be a whole lot of people there. But in general, I still think that Reboot is a visual downgrade from Anonymous Code. Like, Anonymous Code's visuals were truly breathtaking. What we have here in Reboot, to me, looks like a little bit of a mixed bag. This is all still work-in-progress footage, but from what I've seen so far, there's elements I like, but also elements I don't like. One aspect of the visuals I absolutely adore is the Divergence shift animation. That especially feels so Anonymous Code-like. Like, wow, that looks amazing. All the world-line, world layer imagery, the gears, the cosmos, the helical string visuals, just truly incredible stuff. But separate from the visuals is the starting divergence value. In every other version of Steins Gate, the starting divergence is 1.130426. However, here in the Reboot trailer, it is 1.130246, though the alpha world line it shifts to afterwards is the exact same. Was this a typo, or was this something intentional? In the original Steins Gate's files, there are points where the first divergence value is listed as 1.130246 as is presented within Reboot. So some have postulated that this first world line was originally supposed to be 1.130246, but was erroneously changed in the visuals of the game, or maybe it was the other way around, in which case the game's files had the typo. Whichever the case may be, it's interesting that we have a different starting divergence. Moving past the in-game footage, the trailer then gives us some intriguing messaging. The present. 15 years have passed since that day, and now everything will be rebooted. A story from 2010 to connect to new scientific pursuits. SG to be continued. What does all this mean? The line on connecting to new scientific pursuits would seem to be hinting at Steins Gate Reboot being designed to connect with and set up the next SciADV releases, and like they've reaffirmed repeatedly with the same SG to be continued tagline for the 15th anniversary, there's going to be more SG. Whether SG specifically means Steins Gate or the Steins subseries, I'm not sure. It's possible the second word in Steins Gate's thematic sequel's title also starts with G, as it was originally supposed to be called Steins God, but they moved away from that direction to avoid getting people confused whenever they would use the term SG. Maybe they're re-pivoting back into that direction for marketing purposes? Who knows? But at the very least, we can expect more Steins Gate related content in the future. It makes them too much money for them not to. Now, could all these hints in the trailer point towards it being a meta sequel like many of us have theorized given the implications of anonymous code? After all, we do have tiny bits on connecting to new scientific pursuits as well as SG to be continued. Maybe? The commentary from WePlay Expo paints Steins Gate Reboot as largely being the same as Steins Gate Elite from a script standpoint, but all this messaging they've had in their marketing makes you wonder how extensive these additions and revisions will be. Spoiler warning for the entirety of SciADV up to and including anonymous code. I think it's entirely possible that Steins Gate Reboot is a version of the story that takes place after the Gaia reboot. I think the hints they've dropped in their marketing and messaging about the game would at least point towards it being as much. But nonetheless, from what they've revealed at WePlay Expo, it seems like most of the game won't be anything new, and there's no guarantee that the new ending that Reboot is supposed to add will have any connection to the implications of anonymous code. Please let me know your thoughts on the latest news. Is this about as much as you had expected? Or are you disappointed? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But with that in mind, Bossman out.